Hey everyone, welcome to the weekly home workshop. I'm your host, Terry Taylor with the Tailored Realty team. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Let me get adjusted right quick. Uh, every Wednesday at 12:15, we come on with some real estate topics that's, simple, easy to understand topics. Again, nothing groundbreaking, pretty basic stuff, but sometimes if it's something you hadn't thought of, um, it's stuff that makes a lot of sense and makes a big difference. Today, we're working on episode number 24. So we've done 24 episodes of the weekly home workshop. Hopefully, you've gotten something out of it. Again, we come on your lunch break, 12:15, 15 minutes. If you got topics that you're interested in, feel free to throw those into the comment section. It may be something that we'll talk about in the future. So last week we were talking about getting to the closing table. On today, we're going to talk a little bit about now that you've closed and you're in the home, what do you do now? What's up next on the agenda? So let's go ahead and get the first segment on the screen for you to review. And right here, you can see it. You've secured the home. So what are some of the next steps to do? A lot of times people aren't thinking about after they've closed on the home, once you've gotten those keys, a lot of times you hadn't thought about how many people have been in there and what you need to do. So when you've closed, you want to secure your new home. Um, Consider getting everything rekeyed. You want to get new locks. Get everything rekeyed. If there was an alarm system, change the alarm codes. Make sure you secure the home because unless it's new construction, and even in those instances, a lot of times uh, realtors have had a key, previous owners have had keys. Maybe someone had a dog walker or a maid or whatever the case might be. There may be a lot of keys floating around out there that you're not aware of. So, one of the first things you want to do when you secure the keys at closing is think about, all right, I probably need to go ahead and get my locks changed. Either change the locks or get them rekeyed. There are services out there that can do that. Changing locks is an easy enough do-it-yourself kind of activity, but certainly the doors and the locks to the exterior of the home that lead from the outside in, you want to make sure those things get rekeyed. Um, let's go on to the next segment. Let's see if I can pull that one up. Segment 2. This is also a key element. One of the things you want to do is learn how your house works. So before you get too comfortable, you want to learn some basic things about your home. Here's number one. And if it's late at night and all of a sudden you got a water burst, you want to know where your electrical panel is. Where's your water heater? Where's your main water shutoff valve? A lot of times, homeowners may not consider where these things are. And the worst time to look for them is in the state of emergency, right? Because you're panicking, you're running around, and there's so many different things going on. You're not quite sure where these things are. Now, if you've had a lot of the things that we've talked about leading up to closing and getting your home, you should have had like a home inspection done. It doesn't matter if it's new construction, doesn't matter if the house is a year or two old, you always want to get a home inspection done. One of the good reasons is a good home inspector is going to identify everything kind of that we're talking about in this particular section. They'll show you where the panel box is. They'll show you where the water heater is. In most instances, the home inspectors are taking pictures. So, they've got pictures identifying where these things are. Shut-off valves. You'll know exactly where all of this stuff is as long as you've had a home inspection done because it'll be in your inspection report. So before you lay your head down that first couple of nights, honestly, you want to do it day one. You want to remember or reacquaint yourself with where these things are, primarily that water shut off. Because if something happens, especially let's say the house has been sitting for a while, especially if it's a new construction or even if it's an older home, if it's winter, depending on the time of the year, if it's been sitting for a significant amount of time, you need to know where these emergency shutoffs are just in case something happens. So Be sure to identify those shutoff valves and electrical panel where these things are. You want to know about that. Let's see. Next segment. During closing, so you want to handle the administrative stuff. Make sure you handle things like updating your mailing address, confirming utilities are properly transferred. You're going to update your driver's license, voter registration, any kind of insurance information. One of the things that should be discussed during the actual closing process is some of the tax implications. I know here in South Carolina, they should have discussed it with you. I know your agent will do it. Most of the times, your lenders will do it, and the closing attorney will do it. But there's so much stuff going on, you may not remember these discussions. The number one discussion is taxes. When you pay taxes on your home, unless you have some kind of exempt status, most of the times, whenever you get that home, it's going to default to a 6% tax rate. You do not want that. That is an investor's rate. That is a huge tax bill. You want it at the 4% rate. Okay, so make sure you do the administrative things and get that paperwork filled out so you are, whatever that takes to do, registering with the county or speaking to whomever. Those are the things you want to make sure administratively you get done as quickly as possible. Now, sometimes you can't get those things done until you have your deed or some of the necessary paperwork that the attorney is going to send you after closing. But that needs to be on your radar. That needs to be on your calendar. That needs to be a reminder in your phone. Because as you know, we've been at this for quite a while, and we've had clients that didn't do it. And in most instances, if you haven't done it, remember, your taxes and insurance are usually tied with your mortgage payment. So if your taxes go up, way up, if your mortgage and your payment has been adjusted based on a 4% rate and it goes up to 6%, that will jack your payment up significantly. So much so that you probably can't make the payments anymore. Now, granted, whenever something like that does happen, the unexpected, please reach out and contact someone. We've had clients that are about to go into foreclosure calling us to sell their home because they just can't afford the payment anymore and they didn't understand what happened. Well, quite frankly, the main thing that happened was they failed to get that 4% tax rate. It took their payments way out of whack, and it was a simple enough fix. We were able to get it reversed, get the payments where they wanted them, and things were fine. So administrative tasks, you have to make sure you put that on the calendar after closing. Let's see if we can find segment 4. No, that's not it. Excuse me. I apologize. I had these out of order. Segment 4. One of the tendencies whenever you move into your property is you want to try to fix everything. So you had an inspection. You probably had an inspection list. Now that you own the house, every little thing on that inspection report may suddenly feel urgent. It really isn't. Try to separate your projects into categories. Number 1, the first one you want is safety and active problems. Second, you want preventive maintenance. Third, you want improvements and cosmetic projects, okay? So remember, what you had on that inspection list does not become number 1 major priority projects. Give yourself at least 15 to 20, unless it's an emergency or some of those kind of first tier project things that you have to get done immediately. There may have been things that you thought you didn't like initially when you were walking through the through the home, that you thought would be a project once you closed. That may not be a big deal later on. In other words, it may be something you identified when you were doing your walkthrough. You say, you know what, as soon as I get in the house, that's something I'm going to work on. Give it about 30 days, because after living in the house for about 30 days, you may discover that thing that you were going to tackle as soon as you got started isn't really a big deal after all. You know, it may be in some obscure location or someplace that you really don't go a whole lot. And it really can just be put on the back burner. It can be a project that you do down the road, nothing that's rises to the level of urgent. So keep those in mind. Prioritize your projects. Use your inspection report again to pull out not only, as we stated in the first part, to pull out those emergency locations like your panel box and your shutoff valves, things of that nature. But you also want to be able to look at that report and say, hey, how old is the roof? When was the last time this HVAC unit was serviced? Or when should I get it serviced? So some of those things can become projects that you do down the line, and make sure you have an ongoing, I guess, maintenance project or ongoing maintenance for the things that you're going to be doing down the road. Remember, owning the home, now it's yours. Guess what? Everything is yours. Maintenance, projects, issues, those become yours. And we're getting ready to talk about that in just a second. Let's see if we can find the next segment. I apologize. I did, like I said, get these kind of out of order. Let's get to segment 4. Oh, excuse me, we just did that. So don't try to fix everything at once. Place them in priorities. And let's go to, this is not my finest hour, number 5, segment 5. Sorry about that, y'all. So let's look at segment 5. Start your homeowner reserve. Now, what are we talking about there? Building a reserve. What a reserve what? Well, reserve funds. You want to be able to put aside home ownership costs, okay? It doesn't end with the mortgage payment. There's ongoing expenses. And kind of like what I was alluding to just a few minutes ago, your heating and air unit may need to be serviced. Water heater may need attention. Appliances sometimes quit. Plumbing issues pop up. If it's yours, something can and will go wrong, okay? Now, what you want to do, you want to set aside a reserve fund for emergencies. Emergencies and maintenance reserve fund. Set it aside. You will need it. I don't care if you're in the house for 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 or 30 years. You need a reserve fund set aside for these kind of things. Projects can be a whole separate thing. I want you to start setting aside a little bit for maintenance and repairs. Maintenance and repairs. Even if you're going to do it yourself, you're going to have to buy the tools in most cases. You're going to have to buy the supplies. So start setting aside a reserve fund and do a little bit, every pay period. That way, when something comes up, you're not trying to scramble and figure things out at that point. So set aside a reserve fund. It's the smart thing to do. It's going to save you a lot of time and money in the long run. And remember, it doesn't matter how long you're going to be there. Quick story. My dad just came into town recently, and he had a water issue when he got to his house. He figured out, he hadn't been there in a minute. Once he got there, he figured out there was a water issue, so we had to call a plumber. Things just happen. And again, it doesn't have to be anything catastrophic, but it's going to be things that's going to alter your current situation a little bit. Sometimes you might have to shut the water off. Sometimes you might have to repair something. Set aside a reserve for those instances. And finally, let's take a look at Terry's take. Here's some key takeaways. Remember, the home is now yours. So number 1, the first thing we talked about, make it yours, secure your home, learn how it works. Next, we kind of talked about staying organized, handling those administrative items, and making sure you get everything taken care of on the administrative side, because one of those that can really bite you in the butt is that tax bill. Prioritize your projects. You want to focus on those most important things first. Don't try to do everything at once. And remember, even some of the things that you thought were a nuisance or an issue that you would address during your walkthrough or when you first saw the house, once you live there for a while, you might determine that, that's not quite as bad as I thought it was. And then finally, you want to prepare for the future. Okay? Prepare for your future by putting aside those reserve funds so that when things come up, not if. Owning a home is kind of like death and taxes, not if it happens, when it happens. There's going to be times where you're going to have to do maintenance work, repair work is coming. Okay, so just be prepared. And that's kind of been our theme the whole time. We're not necessarily telling you exactly what to do, but we're telling you how to prepare for those things. Now that's it. That's our 15 minutes. I went over just a little bit, but again, these are some important topics that have to be thought about and covered. Hopefully, we gave you a few things to think about. Maybe this wasn't groundbreaking or earth shattering for you, but share it with someone who might be able to benefit from this information. Don't forget, every Wednesday at 12:15, join us for the weekly home workshop. Again, where we'll cover those real estate topics for buyers, sellers, investors. It's simple, it's practical, and it's easy to understand information. If you ever need our assistance, feel free to reach out to us. I'm Terry at 803-767-2914. We're at 8012 Garnish Ferry Road in Columbia, South Carolina. My wife, Yolanda, 803-422-2226. She's the broker in charge. We're here at Tailored Realty Team, ready to help you with your real estate needs. Thanks for joining us for today's show. We look forward to seeing you on next Wednesday for our next episode of the Weekly Home Workshop. Thank you, guys. Take care. Stay safe. Have a good one.